Hello, America. Today's show topics include social media and the role it plays. The Supreme Court has finalized its lineup, and the super blue blood moon of 2018. So, sit back, buckle up, and hang on, because, that's right, we're just getting started.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. You and I have a rendezvous with destiny.
You know what time it is, so sit back and get ready for the Stafford Voice, your dose of conservative in a world of liberal.
3, 2, 1.
Hey, how you doing? I'm Daniel.
And Roxanne.
And you're watching or listening to the Stafford Voice, where we are conservative in a world of liberal. But we want to remind you there are many ways to tune in. So, set the channel as a favorite, whatever you have to do, so you don't get left behind. Because if for some strange, crazy reason you do miss the show, you can just sit back, because there's no need to panic. We've got you. And, by the way, just to make things easier on yourself, subscribe. Hit the like button. Set the channel as a favorite so you don't get left behind. In the case you aren't already following on social media, you can find us over on Twitter or Gab at Stafford Voice. Again, that's on Twitter or Gab at Stafford Voice. Or you can find us over on the Facebook or the Instagrams or whatever the social site of your choosing is. Wherever you're at, just search for the Stafford Voice, and we're probably there. Okay. So, first off, how are you?
I am tired.
You're tired. Why are you so tired?
Well, I worked today, and then I came home, and I did like a million chores.
A million chores. Your list was that long, you had a million chores.
Well, actually, I didn't even really make a list. I just kind of started doing stuff, and then I'm like, oh, I need to do this, and then I need to do this, and then I need to do that.
Did you check it twice?
I don't really have a list. It was kind of like a running list in my head.
You had a running... Okay. How on earth were you able to keep up with a million chores?
Because I would start working on one thing and think I need to do this, and then I would do that, and then I'm like, I need to do that, and it just kept going from there. So it's like I decided to vacuum, and I'm like, well, if I vacuum, I need to clean the cat litter box out, because I always have to vacuum anyways when we clean the cat litter box. So it just went on from there, and I'm like, man, I am tired.
I get it. I understand. I'm tired too. I mean, I've been having some issues with my back. I know you know this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is happening with my back.
Oh. I don't know either unless you go to the doctor.
I've been having like some crazy back spasms. I don't know what the deal is. I've been trying to do some stretches and I can't figure it out. I don't know what it is.
I don't know unless you go to the doctor.
I don't like doctors. All they do is practice. None of them have figured it out yet. I don't know. May have to go to the chiropractor.
Oh, that's an option.
If I get a day off or some time to relax. I don't know.
You've been pretty busy too. I
have been. Anyway, Al says in the chat room over on the YouTubes, Al has joined us. We've also got Ron. Ron says it's probably time for a new mattress, and he's probably right. I think we've had this one for, what, 10 years?
I think so. It's been a while.
It's been a while. It's probably been roughly 10 years. So it might be something worth looking into. I don't know. But Al has... I saw his tweets earlier. He's talking about Michigan State University and how it's melting down. Apparently, some gal stepped down or resigned. Let me see who he said it was.
All chaos now that person stepped down.
I guess the Michigan State University's president has resigned. I didn't. He retweeted, I think, her resignation letter. I hadn't had time to take a look at it yet. So maybe he can update us on what's happening in the chat, unless he's planning on talking about this on his show this Friday. I don't know. If you haven't done so, you guys need to check out these other shows that are over on KLRN Radio. There's a great lineup of shows. Just some stellar creators and talkers over there. So yeah, do yourself a favor and go check them out. So why don't let's just jump right in, shall we?
Okay.
Let's talk about social media and the role it plays. What do you think?
I think for the most part, it's not very good.
Social media, you mean?
I guess it has its pros and cons, but a lot of the times I don't think it's very good. I think it portrays like kind of a negative aspect in your life.
Yeah.
It can kind of be fake because people will post only the good things, and then you start thinking, okay, well, those people are perfect and I'm not. And that can cause problems, but I know that's not where you're leading to with your...
No, I think it all ties in. We talked about this on date night last night, I think. And yes. I kind of put the topic out. I kind of put the topic out on Facebook or not Facebook, I'm sorry. It was on Twitter. That I have struggled with social media. I don't quite know. I see it as a lot of I see a lot of time being wasted.
Mm-hmm.
You get over there. I know for myself, you go over to Twitter and you start scrolling. You start scrolling through, and people are talking, and you start chatting back with people, or you retweet, or you're checking out the week's, the church signs of the week, which every
funny.
Sunday I have to do it.
Sometimes as we're sitting in church waiting for it to start.
Right. But let me talk about a little bigger. I want to talk somewhat in a bigger sense of social media. And Al says in the chat room, he says Twitter is a time suck. It is. And I find that Facebook is the same way.
It is.
And Instagram can be the same way. Honestly, Instagram can be the same amount of time suck as everything else. But I've tossed it around in my head of maybe just getting off of social media but at the same time I've been able to meet quite a few people that I would have never met had it not been for social media.
Well, I think that's where your pros and cons come in. I'm not on Twitter. I'm on Facebook, but I feel the same way with Facebook. Sometimes I'll just go on just to check real quick, see what's happening, and then next thing you know, 15 minutes have passed by, and you're like, oh my gosh, where's that?
Yeah, and okay, Pinterest, the same thing. Pinterest is just as bad, if not worse. You get into some weird warp that if you get into something and you're looking at something on Pinterest, over on the Pinterest, you can look at something, and next thing you know, you're scrolling, you find something else, and then you can't get out.
Well, I find myself making new boards. It's like, oh, well, this looks interesting, but I don't have a place to put that, so I need to make a new board. And then as you're scrolling to put something in one of your boards to pin it, you realize you have like 50 things and you're like 50 boards, and it's like, this is ridiculous. So and my thing is the recipes. I pin so many recipes. I'm trying to at least try the new ones, and if we don't like it, then I get rid of it. But
I like Al's suggestion. He says he broke himself of Facebook.
I don't think I go on it as much as I used to. I know I don't post anything as much as I used to. I've kind of backed off just because sometimes I'll think, oh, okay, well, I'm going to post this, and then I realize, well, that seems kind of silly to post that. So then I just kind of don't do it at all.
Yeah. I do the same thing. A lot of people have everything linked to Facebook, just on my wall. You get those people that it automatically sends every tweet that they like, or that they retweet, or that they actually tweet. It sends it over to Facebook. It is so flipping annoying. But Al says he broke himself of Facebook, and he says that Twitter is next-ish. At least he's going to scale down. I may actually, think about doing more of that myself. Ron in the chat says it's a vehicle for the snowflakes to whine while secure in their safe space. I would agree. Speaking of safe places and snowflakes, that kind of takes us over into the bigger, broader topic. You, above everybody else, knows that I notice patterns.
Yes.
And the other day over the weekend was when I was, talking about this whole, when I put out on Twitter about social media and how much of a time waster it is, what's it really good for? Absolutely nothing. I almost broke out into song. Which can be bad. But apparently the cat's in the studio with us today.
She's limping around in here.
She is. She's feeling her age. But, so, what is today? The 24th?
Yes.
24th. So Monday over on one of those faux news sites, I call it faux news because I'm not gonna name names. I'm a nice guy. They said that the headline was, Facebook can't guarantee social media is good for democracy. Okay, bingo. Lights go off. What does this article say? Well, in the article they they pulled some quotes from a blog post of one of the executives
who works at Facebook?
Who he's one of the Facebook engineers. And they quoted him. I'm assuming it's a him. It's hard to tell anymore.
You have to be careful.
Yeah, you got to use the right pronouns, especially because they're over in they're out in California, so we got to use the right pronoun. But I think it's a he. I'm not sure. They don't really say. Yeah, there they do. It's a he. Okay, so this is Facebook. One of Facebook's product managers. Last name is Chakrabarti. You can figure out where they're from. It's kind of easy. So here's what they said. Quote, if there's one fundamental truth about social media's impact on democracy, it's that it amplifies human intent, both good and bad. At its best, it allows us to express ourselves and take action. At its worst, it allows people to spread misinformation and corrode democracy. I wish I could guarantee that the positives are destined to outweigh the negatives, but I can't. That's why we have a moral duty to understand how these technologies are being used and what can be done to make communities like Facebook as representative civil, and trustworthy as possible. That's really interesting because, you know, when Trump was running for president, he used social media to his benefit.
He still does, doesn't he?
He does. He uses Twitter better than probably most other people in the world. I don't know how he does it.
I don't use Twitter, so
It's crazy.
better
I
than
mean,
me.
it's almost hysterical, some of the things that he tweets. Anyway, so they had talked about the impact of, during the election cycle, they talked about the impact of social media and what it plays in elections. And you remember how Facebook was going in and they had people monitoring news, and what they were handpicking what was newsworthy and what wasn't. Do you remember that?
Not really. I don't.
Okay,
I
it's
don't-
been a while.
Well,
It's been go ahead.
I just don't think I've been on it enough to notice anything like that.
So, well, here's the deal. They were monitoring what was quote unquote newsworthy, and that would be what the trending topics were on the right hand side of your desktop. You remember that?
But just on the computer, not like your phone, because I don't.
Well,
know.
it's in a different spot on your phone.
Okay, maybe that's why I didn't see it as much, because I usually
Right.
look on Facebook on my phone rather than my computer.
Right. So they came out, and it was finally figured out that they were cherry picking the news and basically trying to steer. They're steering the direction that they want, of the message that Facebook wants to push. Obviously, Facebook has an agenda. It's slightly liberal. Al says that it's another avenue to brainwash the masses. I would agree. However, today, over on one of those other right-leaning websites, they talked about the idea of regulating social media. And I thought this was interesting. There were a couple of things that were worth highlighting here. And they were talking about this exact thing. That social media sites, we're going to pick on Twitter and we're going to pick on Facebook because both of those are widely known.
The main ones that are used.
Right, the main ones. You've got your other ones like Gab, but it leans to the right. You're going to have left-leaning people, but it's the ideology that's overleading Gab is right-leaning. They're very pro-Trump over on Gab. But this article where they're talking about regulating social media, basically that the government needs to step in, falls in line with this idea that Facebook and Twitter can, behind the scenes, and Google has been guilty of this as well, where they go in. It's been documented that Google goes in and they are seeing the trends in areas, and based off of what those trends are the news stories and stuff that they will push, and they will use it to help their agenda. Well, so here we've got a lot of talk about social media. Here's what this is. I believe Salesforce.com CEO Mark Benioff. This is his quote. He says, quote, "I think you do it exactly the same way you'd regulate the cigarette industry. You know, here's a product, cigarettes, they're addictive, they're not good for you. Maybe there's all kinds of different forces getting you to do different things." And then the article goes to say, the Salesforce.com CEO's comment echo the narrative of the left, which is that fake news spread through social media and financed by Russia put Donald Trump in the White House. Aside from the inflated claims and Red Scare level establishment panic, the subtext of the argument is that users of social media platforms can't be trusted to choose what information they receive. Basically, they're saying that these social media elitists like Twitter and Facebook are way smarter than us, and that we're too stupid to figure out what is true and what is not.
Well,
So I know. So it goes on to say, unless social media companies limit access to information, they will be manipulated by hostile forces, and many on the left consider Breitbart News and the alternative media to be synonymous with fake news. And then they go on to say, the impetus is the threat of political bias from companies that now have more influence over the flow of news and information than any other company in history. Facebook, through a recent change to its newsfeed algorithm, threatens to undercut the success of new media outlets. Google, by tweaking its search results, could swing an election anywhere in the world. Twitter has been the birthplace of entire political movements. Now, here's the thing. As well as Trump used Twitter and Facebook, arguably he used Twitter more than Facebook, Obama did the same thing.
why is it any different?
Why is it different? Because it's Donald Trump. Because it's a Republican. That's why they don't like this. So now they want to regulate it, these elites think that they're so much smarter than us or anybody else that's listening. That they know what is more valid and more true as in relation to the news than anybody else. I don't know why people can't see through all of this and realize that this stuff is happening. Or maybe they do see it and they turn a blind eye. But you go back to something you were talking about, and it's earlier where everything is fake.
Yeah.
I mean, people get on Twitter, they get on Facebook, and they post something, and they proofread it 100 times. They make it sound so perfect, and their lives are never messed up. Nothing ever happens. Nothing wrong ever happens to them. And then they share a news article, and then they want to badmouth somebody, but everything with them is perfect.
That's part of the reason why I just don't go on anymore, is because it's a mental thing for me. I mean, I know no one's life is perfect, but it just, you have your days where you go on Facebook and then you see these people and they have perfect pictures. Their kids are the best kids in the whole entire world. They're so perfect. And then you start thinking about your own faults and how your kid is, and maybe he didn't do this right or do that right, but
I did not mean to do that.
Well, it's kind of the same thing with Pinterest, with me and cooking. I'll pin a recipe. The picture in the recipe looks absolutely perfect.
Yeah, and you beat yourself up over it.
I do. Because
then
mine doesn't turn out that way. And I'm just like, what did I do?
Well, because that stuff's fake.
I know.
It's fake cooking.
I'm trying to learn from it, but that's part of the reason why I just try not to get on Facebook as often is because I don't want to do that to myself mentally.
But here's the thing, and I see what Ron just put. He says, I miss Walter Cronkite. Here's the thing. Here's where I'm torn. Back in the day, when we really only had Walter Cronkite and two other guys, we had three big news companies, ABC, CBS, and NBC. And that's the way it is. Okay? Walter Cronkite, one guy, delivers the news. The news company picks out what the news is going to be. Walter Cronkite delivers the news. Only three at the time. And then you had a handful, you had a few on radio. Okay? There were a few on radio. Now you look at what we have today. Here's where
we have a million people probably.
You have millions of people delivering the news. And that's what Twitter is. That's what Facebook is. You get on Twitter, you get on Facebook, any of these other social sites, and that's what you get. It is live coverage 24 hours a day, 100% of everything is getting covered. If somebody is there and a rich person drops a pen and they pick it up themselves instead of somebody else in their entourage picks it up for them, oh my God, it's news and it's going to make TMZ.
I never got into any of that stuff either. I don't get it.
I mean, it's stupid. But now they're a viable news source because they witnessed something happening. But, and I'm kind of, I guess I'm calling ourselves out here because here we are. We're delivering the news as best as we can. Sometimes we make mistakes.
Because nobody's perfect.
Exactly. Nobody's perfect. We do our damnedest to deliver the news. We like to cover topics that not a lot of other people are covering. You turn the TV on, you turn the radio on, you go over to Facebook, and everybody right now, what are they talking about? Let's go look.
I don't know.
Crikey. Where did it go? Oh, that's what they're talking about. They're talking about this Mueller investigation. The lost text messages. There are 400 or 500 people out there that are claiming to be an expert on text messages. And how it's Samsung's fault for losing these text messages during an investigation that of the FBI and the Department of Justice and all this stuff. Hundreds of other people are talking about this. You turn the TV on. What are these other guys talking and gals talking about? They're talking about the Mueller investigation. Whereas we cover different things. It's still news. The fact that Facebook is admitting that they can control what you see should be an alarm that says, I need to be a little more vigilant in what I'm reading on social media. Twitter they shadow ban conservatives all the time. To where a conservative can't get messages out. Ron in the chat says, how many of the below the top stories on Drudge does anyone read? Me? None, unless it involves UFOs. I'll tell you this. Here's how I look at Drudge. I don't even look at the top stuff. I don't look at the top stuff. I look at the below the level stories. Because typically, that's the stuff that nobody's covering. And quite honestly, there's some pretty interesting things that are happening out there. Here's what we'll do. We'll try and load up Drudge real quick. Before we move. Oh, see, look.
It's the Mueller again.
It's Mueller again. Nope, now we're going to do it under oath. Oh, here's an interesting story. Is anybody talking about it, though?
What?
Monkeys cloned.
I didn't
Are
hear
humans
about it.
next?
What about cats?
No, that's an ad for lions or
No,
something.
but
Saving
can they
li-
clone cats? We could clone Mitty Kitty.
I don't know. Why?
Because Mitty Kitty's a good cat.
Huh. But, here's... Oh, that's not that interesting. Okay, here's one. A hip-hop star defends Hitler.
Who's this guy?
I don't know. I can't even tell if it's a guy or a gal. And Al, I completely agree. You know, everybody with technology and because of social media, you can pull out your smartphone and you can go live right here, right now. And you can become a news source. It's crazy. Anyway, let's talk about a different... You want to talk about something different?
Yeah. We'll move on.
You want to move on? Okay. See if I got this right. Oh. There we go. Okay. The Supreme Court has finalized their lineup. Okay. I didn't know this, but apparently the Supreme Court justices, they get petitioned in the thousands.
7,000.
I thought that was crazy.
And then they only pick how many?
They selected about 80.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah, out of 7,000. So they received over 7,000 petitions of cases to hear. They selected roughly 80. And here's just, let me see, 1, 2, here. These are 6 of basically the top 20. Basically the top 20 cases that stuck out to me. And some of them are big hitting cases. Like this first one here. This is the Christian baker that versus Colorado or whoever it was, and they're actually kind of leaning, I guess, according to this post, they're thinking that they're gonna side with the baker, and that the baker will win a 5-4 narrow margin, but a victory nonetheless.
Would they get back all the money that they lost?
No. Why would we do that? I mean, seriously. That's not fair.
What frustrates me about that case is if the roles were reversed, if it was the gay couple that had refused to bake for the Christian couple that was getting married, that gay couple would have been applauded.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been, oh, you're such role models for the future and blah, blah, blah. But, that's what frustrates me with it. Is I almost feel like it's one side can have their opinion, but the other side cannot.
Exactly. And that's what the left does all the time. You can say the exact same thing that a leftist would say to a right-leaning person. You can say it right back to them. Just change the names, and it will infuriate them. You'll hurt their feelings. You're saying something racist. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But now they've already heard that case. They're just waiting to issue their decision. Here's two others that they've already heard but we're waiting to hear on. Is Gill versus Whitford, where the 9 justices will decide whether partisan gerrymandering. That's where they go in and redraw the legislative district lines to help the parties that have all the power.
Okay.
Remember was it Elbridge Gary? Elbridge Gary, who signed he was one of the original signers.
Okay.
Declaration. He did that, and that's kind of where the gerrymandering thing came to be. Holy crap, there's Slick. Slick finally woke up. Either that or he got out of the shop and he's finally done making his holsters.
Busy day.
Slick, how the hell are you, buddy? Goodness gracious. Man, we've missed you. Miss John, too. By the way, I totally spaced it off yesterday, and I was kicking myself in the rear. I forgot to say something to John yesterday.
What was yesterday?
Yesterday was John's birthday.
Oh, okay.
So, I don't know if you guys missed it as well. Apparently Slick's fine. Finding his frog hair split 3 ways.
I have never heard of that before.
Well, he's a Texan, so it's okay.
Well, how do you explain your grandma's?
I don't know. She's just weird.
I use that all the time now.
What?
It's 3 miles too big.
Oh,
She's got a whole bunch, but that one's always stuck out
that
in my
one's
head.
always stuck. I don't know where she gets any of these. Some of them you'll never hear from anybody else. However, there was one that we learned recently where she referred to somebody as a raw-boned woman. Never heard of it.
And we've talked about that for months
We've
now.
been talking about it for months, and what happened? The other day, you got a new book from the library.
And the first sentence of the first chapter talked about a raw-boned woman. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
I almost took the picture so I could show them later.
I thought it was hilarious. But, okay, so here we've got... They're trying to decide whether it's unconstitutional, or on the flip side, whether federal courts have no role in such political disputes, where they should be able to gerrymander or whatever they want to do. What are your thoughts on that? Should the government or the courts step in this case?
I don't know. I guess I just haven't learned enough about it all to quite understand exactly what should be done and what shouldn't be done the right way. But I don't know.
Okay. Well, when that case is finally decided, I'll challenge you to read their decision, and then you can determine for yourself which side you lean on. That didn't sound all exciting. Okay. How about this one? In the Patrick versus Zinke, they will decide an important constitutional separation of powers question of whether Congress can pass a law instructing the courts to dismiss a particular federal case or group of cases that are already in the court system. Do you have an idea on that one? Some of these cases, I think they're interesting, and I'm kind of torn on them. I don't know. I think for one branch of the government to step in and tell another branch what to do, I think that's like the whole reason why we have the separation of powers. Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. I'm just listening to you.
I was kind of wanting to know where you stood on it.
Well, I agree with you.
Okay, well, I feel smart. She agrees with me. Okay, here's an interesting one. So do you remember when you go to vote?
Yeah.
And Slick, I'm interested. It's going to be interesting to see what the justices put in their ruling, and when they do their write-up. Some of these cases, I'm actually really interested in reading what their decision is. And that's kind of why I'm highlighting some of these big cases that we're going to come up to. Okay, so here's 3 cases that they haven't heard argued that kind of stood out to me. So you know how you go to a polling booth and you can't have signs or anything?
Yeah.
They have to be so many feet away, right?
Yeah.
Here's what they're saying. Here's the case. Minnesota Voters Alliance versus Mansky. The court will determine whether a Minnesota law that disallows any sort of political message at a polling place, such as a voter wearing an NRA hat or a Don't Tread on Me t-shirt when he casts his ballot, is so much broader than the necessary to prevent voter intimidation that it violates the First Amendment. What do you think about that? So they're basically saying, here's what I'm getting. So if I wear, Tina's here, woohoo, woo woo, Tina's here. Now you got to type hi Tina. I know. I struggle. I can't type either. I can't type and talk. That's why I talk to you. So here's what I'm getting from this. Basically, if I wear a shirt that has somewhat of a political message, it's an NRA t-shirt. All it says is NRA or NRA supporter or something like that. They're basically going to turn me away because I'm intimidating voters.
I'm sure some people probably would do it, wear the clothing just to intimidate, but not everyone. I wouldn't think the majority of people would be doing it to intimidate others.
Okay. What about a shirt from like what about this one that they talked about here, where like the Don't Tread on Me? Because a leftist Democrats don't wear Gadsden flag stuff.
Tread it on.
I like what Slick says. He says, yep, unconstitutional, and anyone who is intimidated by a t-shirt is a straight-up vag. Okay, so I agree. I think this is stupid. I think they're going to toss this one out. I guess not really toss it out, but I think that it violates... I think it's a violation of the First Amendment. I don't think it... I think that one's going to win.
Well, like I said, I don't think most people wearing those particular garments are going to go in there just to intimidate.
No.
That's just something they like to wear.
Right.
I don't think they're going to be going there and be like, hey, look.
Or they could be wearing it just to say, hey, I'm a Republican. Give me a Republican ticket. But an NRA t-shirt doesn't promote any particular one person over the other. And I just think it's stupid. That one probably is, we can kind of guess where that one's going to go. The next one that's kind of interesting is, I guess, the Supreme Court has taken up the option to do Trump versus Hawaii, where they will decide several monumental questions regarding President Trump's so-called travel ban found in Presidential Proclamation 9645, including the roles of Congress, the President, and the courts, and whether this policy is consistent both with federal law and the Constitution. I think it's going to be interesting to see which direction the courts want to take that one. I think if they side with the state of Hawaii, that, in my opinion, I think that's saying that the court has more power than the president. I think even though they all kind of have different powers, the whole separation of powers thing anyway, that, obviously his travel ban is, in my opinion, consistent with federal law and the Constitution. I don't think it violates anything. As a matter of fact, it is the exact same thing that Obama did, but nobody argued it then.
Well, some people talked about it at the time, but it wasn't a big, huge... It
wasn't a big deal.
Yeah.
It was a big nothing burger.
Yeah.
But because it's Trump and a Republican did it, it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I think Slick, he hits on it best. He said in the chat, he says, if they side with Hawaii, then they will destroy the separation of powers and nullify the Constitution. I tend to agree with you on that. I don't see how this gets swayed towards Hawaii at all. But this last one kind of hits home to some of us. I know it hits home to us, and this one kind of hits home for Slick and Tina as well. This is South Dakota versus Wayfair. The Supreme Court will decide whether states are able to tax the internet. Should states be able to tax purchases on the internet? So if I buy something that is sold, I'm in Kansas, if I buy something that's sold in Texas, say from Rebel Road Tactical, and I'm buying a new holster, I have to pay Texas tax. Well, that's a bad choice because Texas doesn't have tax. Okay. If by chance Rebel Road Tactical was based out of some other state that actually collected taxes, I would have to pay taxes on it. That's what they're arguing. Because states are losing money like crazy.
They're only concerned now, but they weren't concerned then.
Oh, I guess I'm misunderstanding the... Okay, Texas itself doesn't have a tax, but they do collect sales tax. It's been a long day, and it's been a long week.
It's only Wednesday.
I know. I'm not sleeping well.
I understand.
Am I wrong, Slick, with that? Texas, they don't collect a state tax, but they do collect sales tax. I think that's right. That's okay. That's right. They don't have a state income tax, but they do collect sales tax. God, it's okay. So if I was to purchase a holster from Rebel Road, I would have to pay a tax. According to this argument. I don't know. So basically, us as a business owner with 76supply.com, we would have to charge everyone tax. We would have to then submit tax. We'd have to pay each one of those states tax at the end of the year. You basically have to have an entire legal defense team to help pay your taxes. How would most small businesses be able to do that when they're selling things online?
I have no idea.
I don't either. I don't know how they would be able to do it.
That would just give me anxiety.
Worse than it already is.
Right?
Yeah. Sorry, you got to talk for a second because
I don't know what to talk about.
you don't know what. So, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, if we were forced into doing that, if the Supreme Court sides with, who was it, Wayfair?
Well, it's was it North Dakota?
Yeah.
Against Wayfair.
Okay, if they side with the state and say that the state can collect taxes.
Like I said, it would cause me anxiety. I don't know if I'd want to do the business then, because that would be just would we be making any money then? Or would we?
We would still make some, but our margins would be a lot less.
And how much more will we have to pay to get our taxes done than we already do? If you're going to have a huge team to try and do this for you.
I don't know.
That's why I think it would, I don't know, I don't think it would be a good idea.
I don't like it. It's and they do. Slick says it would kill online business unless you were a large corporation.
Yeah.
This isn't totally unexpected, and I agree. I think at some point states are going to figure out a way to collect on it, and in large part, Amazon has kind of figured that out. That's why there's a presence of Amazon in every state. I think Amazon is anticipating something moving in this direction where internet sales are taxed. And I think that I personally think that's why they're trying to get such a footprint in every state, that their goal is to try and get something to you within 1 to 2 days. And the only way to do that is if they've got hundreds of shipping facilities. And that's how they're going to be able to get away with it.
Well, what about the people that order online? Is it going to affect them? That would go and order from these places? Would it affect them?
It would, because they're going to pay more. And I need to retract something that I had said earlier. It's not going to affect our margins. Our margins are going to stay the same. It's just the end price for the consumer, for the purchaser, goes up. So it could deter a lot of online purchasing.
Goes back to what Slick said. It's going to hurt businesses.
It will. Anytime the government gets involved, it's going to hurt business. Not big business, because they're too big to fail. It's going to affect small business. So, yeah, I guess I didn't really clarify what I was thinking when I said what I said earlier. Okay, last little thing, and I'm actually kind of excited for this. I'm putting it on my calendar. I'm gonna do this.
It's next Wednesday, isn't it?
It is next Wednesday. So here's the thing. Let me move my brownie out of the way. I have not been able to eat too much of it. Okay, the super blue blood moon of 2018. I've talked about the cosmos a couple of times, stuff that's rather interesting to me. I don't have the telescopes or anything like that. But this is actually kind of interesting, and a lot of us will be able to see it. Here, I have a link that I can put here. Hopefully that works. Yes, it does. Okay. With the link that I just put in the YouTube chat, you can go there, you can put in your city, state, zip code, whatever, and it'll give you what time that you will be able to see the super blue blood moon of 2018. What exactly is this? So January 31st, they say it will serve up a phenomenal lunar spectacle. It's the first time Since 1866, a blue supermoon will coincide with a lunar eclipse. Okay, so we've got a lot of different things happening here. We've got a blue moon. Okay, you know what a blue moon is, right?
Well, it's just like a much bigger moon than it normally is.
No,
it's not really...
that's the supermoon.
I thought it said the blue moon wasn't even actually blue, though. Was it?
It's not. They call it. You know the phrase "once in a blue moon."
Yeah.
Okay, once in a blue moon. A blue moon is when you have. The blue moon is the second full moon in a single month. So January has already had a full moon.
Okay.
So on January 31st, we will have another full moon. Okay? It's going to be a supermoon because it will be, because the way the moon orbits the Earth, it's not in a circle, it orbits in an elliptical pattern. So it becomes a supermoon when the moon is closest to the Earth. So that would be the super blue moon, right? A blue supermoon. Add on top of that, it is a lunar eclipse. This lunar eclipse, the way that the effect that it has, here it is right here. It says, as the light filters through the Earth's atmosphere, it makes the moon glow red. So, this big, huge, giant supermoon, which happens to be the second full moon of the month, that hasn't happened, we're getting a lunar eclipse on top of it. And this hasn't happened since 1866. Just
a long time.
It is a long time. It's kind of a cool thing, don't you think?
Yeah. Hopefully it's not going to happen while I'm at work.
No, it's not going to happen at work. It's going to happen super, super early in the morning. It's going to be like, you'll be able to see it like somewhere here in Kansas City area. Tina says, holy astronomical soup, Batman. I'm not Batman. But I play one on TV. No, that was kind of cheesy. Okay, so in Kansas City, we will be able to see it around, if I remember right, when I plugged it in, it said roughly 5:30 in the morning, Central Time. And yes, Ron says we got to pray the clouds stay away. That's true, because during the complete solar eclipse,
it was cloudy.
And it passed right over the house. We didn't get to see crap. Anyway, still cool, because it got dark out in the middle of the day.
Not very much. Not here.
Where I was, it
Yeah, where you were
did.
working at, it did, but not here. It was still, I mean, it got kind of, but not it wasn't very dark at all.
Did you know that Slick is Batman? I did not know that.
I did not know that either.
You want to name that movie?
I can't remember.
Wayne's World.
Oh, I haven't seen that movie in forever.
Party time. Excellent. Okay. So, that was kind of cool. Wow. I am not on the ball with getting this stuff going. I stink at this stuff. I got to get so much better at this. Either that or I got to quit worrying about the brownie that I got sitting in front of me.
It's not going to go anywhere. The brownie.
It's not. Oh, it's not?
No. And we've got more in the kitchen.
Well, it's not warm anymore.
No, but you could pop it in the microwave.
I could. That's a good idea.
Technology.
I know. Okay. We got to hurry up and sign off because, it's that time. It is. We got to say bye to our friends and our family. Okay. Yes, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this week. God willing, the Stafford Voice. We will be back next week. You can follow us over on Twitter or Gab at Stafford Voice. You can look us up on Facebook or Instagram. All you got to do is just search for the Stafford Voice. You can email your questions, comments, or concerns to thestaffordvoice@gmail.com. We would really like to thank you so much for your time. We understand that it's a big time commitment for you, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. If you're interested, stay tuned for a little bit of an after the show, and if not, no worries. Until next week, thanks, and God bless.